Hello and welcome to The Well. I'm your host, Dr. Brendan Arm, Doctor of Acupuncture and Oriental Medicine, Chinese medicine herbalist, and founder, director of Lotus Integrative Medicine in Santa Monica, California. There's a wealth of health-related information out there, and I'm joined today by this wonderful group of integrative and holistic medical doctors and practitioners to share some of our favorite wellness tips. Please let me introduce you to Bianca Rodriguez, a holistic psychotherapist, Dr. Heath McAllister, a naturopathic doctor and a registered herbalist, and Dr. Rob Krochmal, a medical doctor and a practicing physician who is board certified in family medicine, nutrition, and integrative and holistic medicine. So let's begin. Today's topic is personal responsibility equals personal freedom.
Well, first, I would just like to point out that you and Heath are in new environments. So for those who watch on the regular, Heath has now left the United States.
I finally made it to the Russian space station. Sorry, I just got out of my chair for a second. Hold on. Let's drop myself back down. Okay.
And you look like you're getting your vitamin D, Brendan.
Indeed. I want to be outdoors, get a little fresh air.
Brendan, why don't you tell us about personal freedom? Because you seem pretty free right now.
Well, my thoughts on the subject are, I would say pretty much any one of us, given certain situations, might react in a way which we otherwise, when we look back in retrospect, say, boy, I wish I, didn't respond that way, or I wish I was more compassionate, or I wish I was more insightful, or I wish I paused, or maybe I thought about that, before saying something the way I did or doing something the way I did. Maybe if I just paused until my blood cooled down a little bit, maybe I would have reacted differently. And I do think there's something to pausing sometimes and to trying to gather our thoughts and gather our center and then work from that space. And then when if we do find we do something that's off-putting, it's okay to then say, oh, hey, I'm really sorry about that. Let me take some responsibility. It's actually freeing, to the individual, to the self, to say, I'm sorry, I didn't see it that way. I wasn't seeing clearly, or now I see more clearly. And, I apologize. I'm sorry. I feel really good sometimes when I'm able to say, I'm sorry. I didn't mean it that way, or I wish I didn't do that. I think there is certainly a lot of freedom that comes from understanding that we are flawed, and that we are imperfect, and that's what makes us beautiful. Leonard Cohen says, the famous poet and recording artist, said there's a crack in everything, and that's what, everything has a crack in it, and that's what brings a light in.
Yes, so, Brendan, what I heard you say at the beginning of that, though, is one of the most important things is what it sounds like you're alluding to is that if you can pause, if you can regulate your emotional state, you then have a choice. And Viktor Frankl talked about that, that there's a stimulus and there's a response. And in between those two things lies your ability to make a choice. And I think it's like getting, a lot of what I work with clients to do is to get them to regulate their emotional state enough. And this is what mindfulness and meditation helps us do, so that they can really make like an informed choice. And you no longer feel like you're a victim of your emotional, state, because, we are wired a lot of the times to sort of defend ourselves, to protect ourselves. And, a lot of the things that we feel like we're defending ourselves against and protecting ourselves against, we really need to assess whether they really are, inhibiting our safety in some way. And I think that's what happens when we get into these super sort of polarized kind of chaotic things that we see going on in the world right now. Is it's, one side is, I need you to believe what I believe, right? For me to preserve my identity, right? I feel like I'm going to no longer exist, or something is going to happen to me. I won't be safe anymore. And the other says, no, I need you to believe what I believe, right? And that's what happens when we get into any kind of war and any kind of conflict. So if you're not able to regulate yourself enough to go, well, what do you think? Why do you believe that? Then, you're really just responding in attack all the time.
Yeah, I think it's important to have everyone to really evaluate themselves, to have some self-reflection, honest, transparent, no BS self-reflection of yourself, to actually, without ego. If our ego, we guard our ego so greatly that it's this, this golden chewy center, and we don't want anyone near it. But you also have to realize that it's okay to be wrong sometimes, and it's okay to have made mistakes. And if we don't admit those, and if we don't own those, then we will never advance in life. It's like if you think the system is perfect, then why would you change it? The system isn't perfect. See how your system isn't perfect. See how the things that you can advance. What is your growing edge? How can you advance? My personal belief is that this is like the soul's playground. Humanity is the soul's playground. We're meant to learn lessons in this life and advance our soul, which is our higher self, our higher understanding, and if you never really explore that growing edge, if you never really explore how can I grow? How can I change? How can I be a better version of myself? Every day we have that chance to be better versions of ourselves, but it takes divorcing ourselves of that ego, that righteousness, that need to be right all the time. You just can't do it. I can't do it. I'm wrong 100 times a day, and that's okay, as long as I'm not making the same mistake over and over again. So that honest self-reflection and that desire to be that better version of yourself, it's cascades in all different aspects of your life, from the way you eat, like, yeah, you're right. I'm eating too much sugar. I really am not honoring the temple that I am. Let's eat less sugar, whatever it is. I know that exercise is good for me. What's my BS? What's my lying to myself that I can't exercise? Oh, I just, my body hurts, or I'm just not one of the, I don't look good exercising, or whatever story you tell about yourself, whatever lies you've owned about yourself. Be honest with that, and then see, where is that growing edge? How can you inch yourself better and better each day?
Yeah, and I think therein lies the freedom, and it can be so hard to accept that you are flawed. But when you really truly do that with all honesty and embrace that, then you realize that you actually are free, because then you can embrace all sides of yourself. And the light cannot exist without the darkness, and vice versa. That's what brings us into the present moment. And as you're saying, Bianca, that's what mindful meditation is all about. And that's why it feels so good, is because you're really rising above that small self you and getting into the bigger self, where you're connected with the larger picture of things. And this week I've just seen so many patients that are so wound up in the events and things that are going on in their lives and the lives of in the country, and having a hard time being in the present moment. So there's that space. There's the thing that's happening, and then the reaction to it. And taking that pause allows you to be able to take some breaths and to know that you're okay, and continue to be able to be in the present moment and know how to get some joy out of your life in this moment.
I think it's important, though, to also honor the fact that this is hard. This is painful stuff. So he's talking about the edge. So you get to the edge, you don't know what's on the other side, right? You're being asked to let go of a belief, of a way of being that on some level you believed served you, right? People are not stupid, right? We are meant to adapt. We're meant to survive. So, right, if you were like, no, I don't like exercising because like I look weird and people would be looking at me, it's like that developed on some level to protect you. Is it functioning for you anymore? No, but man, that's going to be scary when you start going out, maybe jogging in your neighborhood and feeling incredibly anxious about the fact that maybe people are looking at you or this and the other. So, everybody here has obviously done a lot of work on themselves. And so we can talk about this from this kind of Zen space, but it's like people out there, if you're doing this, and I still sit in a lot of pain and struggle with stuff, know that like when you're coming to the edge, they're called growing pains for a reason, because you're being asked to expand. And if you are sitting doing, as Dr. Rob said, mindfulness, sometimes, you do get to that place where things feel more calm, but it may be a storm that you're going to sit through, right? But what you're doing is you're building what's called your window of tolerance, right? You're building Lyle agrees. You're building your window of tolerance. Hey, everybody, this is Lyle. I
That brings you into the moment.
That brings you right into the moment. Yeah, he's my spirit animal. But it builds your window of tolerance to deal with discomfort so that you can sit with that stuff and take a pause. But this takes a lot of intentional efforts. So remembering it's progress, not perfection.
I also want to add, in taking that personal responsibility, some of it is not necessarily, I mean, I don't mean to be backtracking, but some of it isn't always about, just owning our own mistakes, but also owning our truth. And if, say, you're in a conversation or trying to work with somebody that's just, there's just no way forward. I think there's, say you're working with a, tough personality, maybe it's a narcissist or some, a very, very difficult person that will take no responsibility. Then I think now, the responsibility lays back on our on our hands or feet, whatever you want to call it, in our hands, where we have to say, okay, well, they're not going to shift. So what am I going to do to adapt? For my own peace and wellness, I'm going to, instead of continuously trying to come at a different angle to change their perspective or to get them to take responsibility, because that's for them to do. You can't always control the outside world, but we can do our best to control our inner world. If you recognize, I just can't change this outside, then we have to take time to, self-reflect and adapt. And that's when I look most at my, the teachers that are most inspiring to me. And I'm sure all of us have, individuals and people or animals, that are nature, or whatever it is that is most inspiring to them, that helps them through, in this sense of inspiration, get through, to inspire them to say, well, look, I can't work with this situation anymore. So I'm going to adapt, and I'm going to take responsibility for my own health and wellness. And I'm going to make some changes so that I can be happy. But I do put I'm trying to put an emphasis or a highlight, the importance of think on the ones that are inspiring to you. We all have so many patients right now that are coming in with anxiety and depression and insomnia and sleep disorders, other sleep disorders, and, digestive issues and fatigue, and the list goes on, and immune system. And so much of this anxiety of this time right now, for where we are with COVID and the new year and all the above, think on the ones that are inspiring to you, whether it's a person, or maybe it's just even a candle, like even just the idea of a flame of light, or maybe it's a moon, or maybe it's going out in nature, or maybe it's a a grandfather, or a cousin, or your dog, like Bianca's dog, which is inspiring. Something like this can help us, through get the inspiration to get through the day and get through some of our challenges, to have be self-empowered.
I would also say, in terms of our personal evolution, Bianca, you touched on this a little bit about, that people tend to maybe own parts of themselves, or they identify with some dysfunction. We've all had patients that have, say, depression or anxiety, and that's a part of their identity, and that to let that go would be going into some unknown that you don't even know yet. And that I really think what Byron Katie said is really powerful about who would you be if you didn't have to feel this way, to actually mentally explore who would you be without that anxiety? Who would you be if you didn't have constant self-doubt? Who would you be if you felt all the love and support of everyone that really loves and support all the time? How would you conduct your life differently if you didn't have to feel this negative thing? And then that starts, interjecting into this different type of free space of, manifesting a reality for yourself.
Yes, that Byron Katie work is really, really powerful. And just to go circle, Byron Katie is an author of a book called Loving What Is. Mm-hmm. And, to bring it back to what Brendan was saying too about, we can't change people. And so, you can try, right, to work with somebody and this, that, and the other thing. And then sometimes you just do need to get into acceptance of what? This person isn't going to change, and it's not my job to change them. Mm-hmm. And she talks about the 3 types of business, which is my business, other people's business, and God's business, or spirit, source, whatever. And so I'm going throughout my whole day all the time when I'm starting to get worked up about something, and I'm like, is that my business? No, I think I'm in somebody else's business. And that's really, that's really about them and their higher power to work out. And so you can really extricate yourself from a lot of energetic BS, but then you get to do some of the work that he's talking about here, which is like, then you got to really look at your own stuff. But that's where the power is.
Well, that's all the time we have today. If you have a topic you'd like to learn more about, let us know with a comment on social media. And also don't forget to subscribe to our The Well YouTube channel. Thank you for joining us, and please join us next time for more wellness tips. Remember, regardless of where we are, our resources in The Well are limitless.